Hi, hello guys, and welcome to part 2 of our Photoshop beginner series here on Pixel Perfect with me, your instructor, Sundar Richard Jr. Anyway, I just want to say a very big thank you for all the likes and support you guys are showing on this series. I'll try to be more precise and thorough in my explanation as we move on. So this video is just a conclusion of the previous one. In this video, we are going to be looking at the file types in which you could save your Photoshop documents, whether or not you want to save it for social media, whether or not you want to export it for social media, or you want to save it to come back and work on it on a later date. I'm going to be showing you how. Saving a Photoshop document is very easy, just like you do in your word processing document, just like you save pretty much anything around on a computer. So without further ado, let's just get into today's video. So before we get into the mechanics of saving a Photoshop document, I'd like you to understand what happens when you try to save a document. Okay, so you are working on a Photoshop document which has a stack of layers. Okay, for instance, let me go into my Photoshop now. In this particular window, we have this image that I just some study work I did for the purpose of this episode, and over here we have a stack of layers together which forms this image. So over here we have the stack of layers that make up this particular image, and so when you want to save a file or when you hit the save command, what happens is that it compresses all of these into one flat image and then gives it to you at the output. That is, if you want to save it as an image, you could share on social media, you could go to print, or you could do whatever with it. That's what happens. Okay, now in saving the file, there's always a compression. The application or the processor compresses the details of that particular document. For instance, the color information and other metadata of this particular document, of this image, will be compressed together into one. The compression comes in two ways. We have the lossy compression and lossless compression. Okay, the lossy compression is a compression style where the application gets rid of, let's call them unnecessary data, because it wouldn't be required where the document or the file you're exporting is going. So for instance, if you're saving something as a JPEG, okay, the processor is going to get rid of the color information among other information it deems unnecessary, and so you're going to have a very small file size, an uneditable file, among many other attributes. Yes, and so that is it. That is an example of a lossy file compression style. Now with lossless file compression, what it simply does is that it saves the file, it does the compression alright, and it also retains the color information among other information that particular file may be attributed to, or that particular file has. Okay, and so we would have a relatively larger file size. For instance, you could, if I save this as a PNG, I'm estimating a size of, I don't know, maybe 800 and something kilobytes or 1 point something megabytes. I'm not really sure unless we just do it and see. And then for a JPEG, it's maybe less at about 250 kilobytes, sorry, or something like that. Okay, but you get the ratio. So that is what it is. A lossy file compression, I'm going to write it once again. A lossy file compression save style gets rid of unnecessary information, which makes editability very, very difficult. A lossless file compression does the compression alright in high quality and still retains the necessary details. If you want to save a particular file while retaining maximum editability and quality, you're going to want to save it as a lossless file compression type. Okay, now for Photoshop, there are a bunch of file types by which you could save a particular file. There are a lot of them. Let me just show you. See, look at all of them, but we are just going to be looking at 4 of them. This is a beginner course, so I don't need to give you so much unnecessary information at the meantime. So we're just going to be looking at 4 of them, 2 on the lossy, 2 on the lossless, and we move. So now let's take a look at the first case. That is considering you understand lossy and lossless. Okay, now let's look at the first case, or let's say first scenario. You save, you're working on this, but you have to go do something, come back and work on it on a later date, and so you want to save this entire Photoshop document in such a manner that when you come back, you're still going to have these layers editable. What I mean by editable is you could still click in Superwoman and edit it. You could change the opacity of this and a whole lot of other functions. Okay, good. So with this said and done, that is for the Photoshop document. The file extension, we know it to be a .psd file. Okay, you could also save it as a .psdd or .psdt, which is the Photoshop document template. So that is the first one. Let us just see how to do it. Once again, this is Adobe Photoshop CC 2020, and so if you're on earlier versions of Photoshop, yours may look different, but it's all about the same thing. Once we get into that dialog box, it's one and the same thing. So let's just take a look at how to save it as a PSD. So you go to your file menu, which has all the options for your files. Then we go to save. Now you could use save would work all right, but save, okay, in this case I already have it saved, so you're just going to save it to this particular already saved document in the location. But then let's say you're saving it for the first time, I'm always going to suggest you go for save as. Okay, that way it gives you a whole lot of options as to how to save your document. So we simply click yes. Of course, this is the CC, so the Creative Cloud. So we could decide to save it on the cloud or decide to save it on our computer. So we're going to choose save on computer. These are the few folders I have on my desktop. It's already saved on my desktop as crashed. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to make a new folder, and I'm going to say PSD Photoshop documents or PSDS, whatever. But anyway, we open it and we're going to save example. Yeah, you could, please don't click this ICC profile. Okay, yes, you may click this, but then I'm just going to suggest you let it be as it comes, because in case you are working with a different color profile, it's going to change it, which is in the long run going to create some problems in your color space. And for that reason, I'd advise that you leave it this way. But if you are going to work for screens, if you are designing something for screens, and you would want to make sure that your color profile or color space is always sRGB, because that is what screens are designed for. Okay, it's designed to read sRGB colors, and so that is what you want to do. Now, yeah, you see that we have layers. Click here. Now I want you to watch what happens between the as a copy and layers. Okay, so once layers is clicked, it means it's going to save it as one, as the same thing. Okay, but once you add as a copy, layers disappear, and so it's going to save it as just one image. Okay, just one image, which, you know, we don't want that. We want all our layers available for us to work on. So we're going to now, once layers is clicked and as a copy is also clicked, this means it's going to save it as a copy of the document. Okay, just as simple as that. It's like saving it here and there. Okay, good. So I'm going to get rid of as a copy. I'm going to allow it this way because I know my color profile already and it's good, it's what I want. So I'm just going to leave it this way. So always ensure that maximize compatibility is turned on so that you could work on it on different versions of Photoshop and probably other applications, considering a good convertibility occurs. Sorry, file conversion occurs. Then click OK. So down here you saw it just finished saving. So let's go to our desktop, open PSD. We have the example.psd. We could close this and reopen it, but okay, let's just do that. And then sorry, just wait a while, and it's opened. It's launched with all our layers intact. So guys, you could continue working on it. That is saving it as a PSD. Now that is for lossless file compression. The second file compression I'd like to talk about is the PNG. Okay, now with a PNG it's an acronym for the portable network graphics. Okay, now a PNG, I really like PNGs, but the only problem with PNGs is that you may not be able to share it over certain media. For instance, WhatsApp some time ago, I don't know if they fixed the issue, but WhatsApp some time ago would not allow you share a PNG. Okay, only unless you sent it as a file. But so I don't know, but I guess they probably fixed that issue now. and so you might be able to send PNG through WhatsApp, but for some other media you might not be able to do it. Why? I don't know. I seriously don't know. I seriously don't understand. So properties of PNG. So PNG accepts transparency. Okay, PNG allows you to save things in a transparent manner. Good. So over here, I know you can't really see what's going on. I'm just alright. I've forgotten the color code. I think it's somewhere here. Good. So over here we have our PXP logo on a red background. Now I'm just also going to box in PNG and JPEG so that you understand how they are both done. So the property of PNG is that it allows you save things without a background. Okay, so in order that you understand this explanation well, let me change the color of this to something very conspicuous. This over here are layer styles, just applying styles to the layers. Is this a nice blue? No, on white it will do very bad. Okay, this will do. Let me save it. It takes effect and close it. Okay, this is even worse, guys. I know this is bad, but okay, let me just change the color over here. On white. Yeah, I think I kind of dig this. Good. So we have this. Okay, now as I was explaining, PNG allows transparency. PNG allows you to save files without backgrounds, and in this particular document, tada, no background. As I already mentioned in the previous episode, this checkered piece of material is just the canvas. So if we save this, save as, then go to the options, click on PNG, say pxp.png to add the file extension PNG. We click on save. I want you to notice what happens. It's going to come without a background. Okay, no, not this example. Guys, do you see it here? Let me maximize this, increase this. Do you see this? It has okay, over here you'd see that's white, but let me import it into this. Get rid of that. Nope. Tada! There's no background to it. It's still transparent. But then let's say we save this as a JPEG. Save as on my computer. Save as file type JPEG, and always go for JPEG. That is a JPG, JPEG, or JP, not JPEG 2000 or JPEG Stereo, guys. Those are for some other older versions and other formats. So hit JPEG. Let's say PSSS. I don't know, it's just something to differentiate. Click hit. You could also use the slider to switch between a smaller file size and a larger file size. You notice that smaller file size, quality 0. Look at it, low, medium, high, maximum. So just always go for the maximum. Leave these things as they are. Always let it be on baseline standard, unless we'll get into it. I'll do another whole tutorial on the file types and their properties and those boring mechanics. Now here we have it. PSS. This is the JPEG file. We drag it, drop it here, and that's the difference. Oh, what happened? Okay, yeah, here it is. Guys, do you see the white background, the JPEG attribute attached to it? See? So that is the difference between JPEG and PNG. PNG could always go with without a background. JPEG never does go without a background. It always requires a background. It's a mommy's boy. It always needs a shielding, and so that is the main difference between the two of them. Now JPEG is a lossy file compression saver style because it loses the details, and so between this and this, if let's say I worked on this several times, saved it, worked on it, saved it, worked on it, even expanded it. This is something really interesting about JPEG, and let me just use a picture for that. Okay, I hope this will even work. So let me just try to make this very simple example. Guys, we are forcing to compress it, okay, and I'm going to see what it looks like. I want to push it down to, alright, it's almost 1 2 3 4. So now this is 4 pixels, 2 pixels by 2 pixels out of the 2000 by 2000 we have. I know you can see it here. Okay, then it's a smart object, so let me rasterize this layer. Good. So now it's a JPEG and it's going to lose all the information it had. Now see what happens when we bring it back up. Do you see the pixelation? Do you see the pixelation? Do you see the pixelation? Mad! This is what I meant by losing the detail. So it lost the resolution once we sent it there and transformed it. That's what happens, and that's why we need smart objects, like I'm going to explain in the next video. So right after this, I want you to go straight to that video and understand exactly why this is happening. We brought it back to its nearly its original file size, but look at it, it's blur, it's pixelated. We don't want this. You don't want this to happen to you, okay? And so that's the difference. So we are going to compress the PNG also to about the same size. One thing about PNGs is that they are smart objects, okay? And just like I mentioned, you should go check out smart objects in part 3 of this series. So PNGs are smart objects, and you want to keep them that way. Once you change them once you rasterize them, they lose that property of being able to adjust, adapt, and retransform themselves, okay? So you just always want to leave it as a smart object. And how to identify a smart object is if it's got this, I don't know whether it looks like a save kind of icon at the bottom right over there. So we're going to want to compress this, compress it. Can you still see, guys? It's kind of pixelated, but the pixels are even smaller than expected. So we're going to pull this right back up. Guys, do you see it? Interesting things about PNGs, guys. So this has been it. I hope you understand it. I hope you now know how to save it, and I hope you know how to decide on which file type to use when saving your work. And let's go back into my example. Yes, now that you know how to save stuff, I'm going to give you a little assignment. Just play around with the Photoshop. Do anything, create whatever you want to create, and if you encounter any challenges, if you don't understand anything, you feel free to, if you are a part of my Photoshop class, feel free to hit me on WhatsApp or in our little classroom. You know what I'm talking about. Or if you are not one, feel free to send me a mail at thepixelsperfect@gmail.com or to my personal email, therichardjr@gmail.com, and I'll be there to help you, okay? So stay safe out there in the world, and see you in the next video. Go design away.